Well, a good morning to you. Welcome to Sunday Best. This beautiful Sunday morning. It is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. My name is Anthony Ndiema. Welcome to another hot potato conversation. Today we are talking about Christians and politics, or Christians in politics. You can choose whichever direction you want it to go. We are the James Suites Riverside. Great, amazing, beautiful place. Check it out. Great cuisine, conference facilities. You know, in the afternoon, you can actually bring your family, have a swim in their beautiful swimming pool, get a meal, and enjoy what they are offering. We have two amazing guests who some of them you know, some of them you want to know better. On my immediate left, usually TV kitambo ilikuwanga hivyo. On my immediate left, my far left, we have Dennis Nthumbi.
Yes.
Dennis Nthumbi is a very familiar face, very passionate. Mm-hmm. He's actually the chairman of Christians in Politics.
Yes.
In Kenya.
Yeah.
But he's also the vice chairman of Agano Party.
Agano Party of Kenya.
Dennis, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
It's really nice to see you and have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Karibu.
I appreciate it.
You're a man who's been condemned.
Mm-hmm.
Umepigwa mawe.
Yes.
Lakini umefufuka tena. All right.
The one who is in me is greater than the one who is in the world.
Come on.
Mawe zikuje.
Mawe zikuje. I love it.
Build a foundation.
Lovely. And we also have Bishop Geoffrey Gishuki.
Thank you.
He's the General Secretary of Church and Clergy Association of Kenya.
Thank you so much.
Now, he is among us the gentlemen who tell us which direction the church goes. And I don't know if politics means much to him and the organization and the association. So today he'll be telling us. Karibu sana, Bishop.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to have you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Sitting with the warm.
So, gentlemen, we dive right in.
Right in
Yes.
it.
Church and politics.
Mm-hmm.
I think let me start with the Bishop. Mm-hmm. What is the role of the church when it comes to politics?
This topic is very timely.
Right.
That's why, given that the fact that we are going into the general election in a couple of months from today, and the church has been for a long time been kept aside or kept away from the real politics.
Right.
The church is therefore, as we speak today, has woken up, and we are getting our space in the Kenyan politics and in the leadership and the governance of the nation.
Come on.
The Bible says from the book of Proverbs that when the righteous are in authority, people rejoice.
Right.
But when the opposite are in authority, people will mourn.
Oh, yeah.
And we have had many elections and many people in leadership, political leadership. But we keep on hearing the same story over and over again. I think it's time for now the church also to be able to get on the table and contribute, because one of the big role of the church is the custodian of moral authority of a nation.
Right.
It gives the moral authority. It is able to guide in the spiritual angle of a nation, because the human beings are never just going to be guided by the politics alone.
Mm-hmm.
They also have the moral issues,
Right.
and I think as a church, we carry that burden of the moral authority of a nation.
Wow.
So the church has got therefore basically a say on the table of how the people should be governed.
Right.
We can't keep away.
All
What
right.
the government would call the voters, they are our members. That is the church.
Right.
But the government will come and call them the voters. So when they talk about 25 million voters, we are talking about those are 25 million people who are members in the
Of the
church.
church.
Yeah.
Right. When I was in the university,
Mm-hmm.
I was in a huge Christian union.
Mm-hmm.
And the Christian union actually produced the leaders of the Students' Association.
Yeah.
I was with the likes of Isaac Maura,
Mhm.
Gladys Wanga,
Mhm.
many of those.
Mhm.
And the Christian Union will say, in fact, there will be two chairmen competing, and one of them will win, the other one will come second.
Yes.
So clearly,
Mm.
there is something about this church
Mm.
that has many people. Dennis,
Mhm.
is this a facade? Or is it really, something that can happen? What is the role of the church according to you?
Wow. First of all, I think the question to ask is, how much time do we have? Because this is a conversation that must be textualized within eternity and within the everlasting nature of God.
Wow.
Sometimes when you say church and politics, we tend to think that politics and government is a dimension outside church or is a dimension outside God. And I think the first premise we have is to define the eternity of God, that God is the beginning and the end.
Right.
That everything is in him. There is nothing outside of him. So even these mannerless governments that we have are in God. They're operating in the very presence, of God.
Right.
They're not operating outside,
Outside.
God. You understand? So if then they are in God, how come they are not godly? You understand?
Wow.
You understand? So that's a question. You know, even the devil was created by God.
Yeah.
Even hell was created. God has fashioned the biggest contest ever that he will win. It's a predetermined end that we know about. So we are not talking about two entities that are in contest. You understand?
Right.
We're talking about the church that is exalted and the government of men that is not exalted.
That is totally different.
You understand?
From the picture, right?
You understand? That is not. Now, the Bible says that the earth is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God.
Right.
So what needs to happen is that the sons of God need to manifest. So when you see a government that is controlled by what I call the lowest form of rats, that is a hamster. It has no regard for game. It eats whatever it eats. You know, there's a difference between a rat and a fox. A fox cannot eat a pregnant deer because it knows it will decimate.
Right.
You know, the generation of the deers, and it won't have
Something
meat
for tomorrow, yes.
You understand? But the rat has no regard for a boat. It will eat the boat and sink with the boat.
Come on.
It is like the fly that perches itself on a coffin and gets buried by a coffin. That is the definition of the kind of people that we have in government today. And we speak like this without any punches. Because we have no reputation. The reputation is with Christ. Our life is also with Christ. So there's nothing that you can take.
Away
You
from
understand?
that.
There's nothing you can take away from us because we are not us.
Right.
Now, if the earth is waiting for the manifestation of sons, then where are these sons?
I like.
Because the dimension that the devil took in Egypt was controlling time.
Right.
The enemy knew that man chases his livelihood and he's in the marketplace. So the enemy decided to control the marketplace. You understand? So these are the three things that I summarize them because I don't want to be asked, go deeper. The expositions are for another day. I think we have very little time. The first thing that the church must do is control culture.
All right.
The Bible says, may your kingdom come. We are talking about a government that controls the thoughts of men, the practices of men, through precepts and ordinances. The second thing is control wealth. The end time mandate of the Antichrist is to control the world through economy. And the third one is to depopulate hell and populate heaven. Is win souls at the end of the day. That is it.
Right.
Those three things. By the way, you know, and I'm sure when you give me another chance, I will elaborate them. But every government is in God, and we say that God permits every government. You know why? Sometimes when the sons of men refuse to manifest, evil men are set above them to awaken them up. Oh, you sluggard. You understand? Even poverty comes as an armed robber.
Right.
So that's the reason why Bishop said that if the righteous are in authority,
people rejoice.
you rejoice. Because the Spirit of God is the one that is. The other one is a punishment. So even when you sing songs in any language whatsoever, and you say this guy has been anointed to do what? And what is the texture and the expression of that rulership? What are we seeing and experiencing? Is there prosperity? Is there posterity? Is the future bleak or dark, or is it bright? Then you will know the dimensions of God. Either God arrived in the country as a judge and judged, because the weight of the sin of the nation is carried by the church.
Bishop,
Yes.
and this is very specific to church. Have you felt angry about what's happening in our nation?
Very.
And what has that anger pushed you to do?
Yeah, I think there is anger already in the air,
Yes.
and the anger is good. What he is saying, and I agree with what he has said, especially the role of the church. Before I get the depth a bit on that, is that there's one thing that Jesus told us, basically God told us as a church, that one, we are the salt of the earth,
Right.
and we are the light of the world. People confuse those two things to mean the same thing. They don't mean the same thing. We are the salt of the earth. Earth is the physical nature of what was created, including what he's saying about wealth, the control of the physical nature of the world. But when he says that we are the light of the world, it means about the systems. It talks about the people.
Right.
It talks about the culture. So if we are the light of the world, then we have allowed people who are not the light, darkness to lead us. Where do we end up? We end up in the pit. We end up in poverty. We end up in corruption. We end up in things that we complain every other cycle.
Yeah.
Because who is leading us is not the one who has the mandate to carry the torch. We are the light of the world as a church.
Right.
We are the salt, the taste. Why are people angry? Because life is becoming tasteless.
Yeah.
Why? Because
There's
we
no
can't
flavor,
touch it.
right?
There's no flavor.
No
of life.
flavor, absolutely.
Why? Because the salt, and the Bible says, if the salt does not perform its function, then it will be trampled. And
Right.
people
It's
trample.
useless.
It's useless.
Yes.
And therefore, with that realization as a church, there's a very good example in Judges chapter number 3 about a king that was called King Egron.
Yes.
And he had ruled that nation of Israel for 18 good years with overburdening tax, with an authority that was not godly every time. But one man called Ehud, who was a left-handed man, God raised him one day. And they went to pay the tribute as it was a custom to do every year. Basically, it's like they were making the returns, like the way we do our returns on the 30th of June
Yes.
for the KRA. So he was making the returns, so he was doing what the Caesar required him to do. But when he went to the parties of the king Egron, an idea came from God, because I think it was from God. And he told those that escorted him to get out, because he has a secret message for the king.
Wow.
And then the king also ordered his lieutenants around him to go, and the two are left. Egron representing the political kind of the worldly leader,
Yes.
and Ehud now becoming the spiritual authority leader. And the two are now left, the two of them, to sort it out.
Right.
Finally, what happens? The secret message he is saying that he has from God was that he took a sword, stabbed this man, and what the Bible says, he spilled from his berries, the balls of his berries spilled over. Content, whatever the greed, the corruption, all things, they have to spill down. This is where we are. That the sword of the Ehud, the left hand,
Yes.
because the left hand was seen to be the weaker hand. But now, when the left is no longer weak,
Yes.
is the one that raises up, it begins to work great things. And this is where I wanted to say, even within our Kenyan politics, this is where the church is. Recently there was a debate, a dialogue for almost similar dialogue.
Yes.
And one thing I want to note is that something was said by His Excellency the President of Malawi.
Malawi, yes.
Him being a bishop and assuming the highest position of power, political power, in an African country. And one thing he said is that the same way as Christians we have been called to go and preach to the weak, to the poor, to the marginalized, to the rural areas, to the urban areas, because we have a calling to different audiences.
Yes.
So is the case of a church being called to go to preach and to take leadership in the political circle. As a political circle, as an element of the bigger society. So we cannot relinquish and say we are going to preach to this and preach to this and ignore this part.
Yeah.
Because basically the government of the day will also impact on us.
That's true.
So we being the salt of the earth, being the light of the world, then we must, as a church, take our position.
I love it. I love the example of what, I mean, you've shared. And sometimes you have to get to that point where, you know what, it has to be me and you,
Yes, true.
and we have to finish this thing right
Yeah.
here so that the people are saved
Yes,
and
true.
they rejoice.
Absolutely.
We've heard about, I mean, this statement has been said again and again, that politics is a dirty game.
Fallacy.
And I like fallacy. Probably well, let's start there. Is that true? Is it a dirty game?
Absolutely. Politics is as dirty as hell.
Wow.
So is winning souls. So is
winning
being a
some-
Christian.
Uh-huh.
You know? So is life. Whether you choose to fight or not, Satan is dirty and he will take you down. And I think Daniel demonstrated to us how dirty systems can be, because his prayers defeated the spirits of Persia. You understand? The truth is, when you look at the life of Esther, one policy can kill all Christians.
That's true.
You understand? And that's how dirty it is. You get it? So when you're absent in the decision-making process, in making sure that you provide for prayer in the political systems, you're letting a dark spirit dominate over the land. And you're letting wicked men wicked men define the policies that land should live under. And that's the reason why I said the first responsibility of the church is to make sure the kingdom of God comes. It finds its texture and its expression upon the nation. This is not a pulpit affair, because it annoys me sometimes that the only focus the clergy put is on the pulpit. In fact, I think, and I keep on saying, perhaps we should disabolish the pulpit. The wooden thing that is put there, you understand? At the end of the day, we have collapsed the kingdom of God to a wooden platform and felt big about it. Yet the country is going into dogs because there's no manifestations of the sons of God within the 7 mountains of influence.
Wow.
At the end of the day. So it is demonstrated in the Bible how dangerous it is to forfeit the dominion mandate of the church. And the dominion mandate of the church is redeeming the time, because times are evil. You understand? For example, when you put how much time do you waste? Because it takes time. It takes time to love God. It takes time to build a legacy. It takes time to love your wife. It takes time to make children. It takes time to do everything whatsoever.
Yeah.
So what happens is that if you're not part of government, time is suspended from you. That is the reason why they have the ability to shut churches. They have the ability to say, we are not going to register any churches in this country. From 2013, there hasn't been any registration. What is that? Time has been suspended like us. Like the way Moses went to Pharaoh, and his premise, his prosecution was on the fact that you have provided straws for the Israelites. Therefore, they have a time to go and worship their God in the desert. And Pharaoh was furious. He said, what? You have time? And then he commissioned his operatives and his functionaries, and he said, suspend that time. And when Moses went to prosecute his matter to the elders, he said, you have done us wrong. You have spoiled us before Pharaoh
Dennis,
at the end of the day.
You're confusing me.
You know, yes.
You know why, yeah? Bishop, this is for you.
Yes.
Churches haven't been registered from 2013.
Exactly.
And something was passed around that. People sit in a boardroom, they make a decision. But clearly, we have people who went in the premise that they are born again, that they are Christians. And that's why I'm asking, is politics dirty? Because we know people who have gone in there and they have been swallowed. So what is happening, Bishop? Do you first of all agree with the dirty
The dirty
conversation?
game of the politics.
Yeah, we have lost people in
Me,
there.
I would say, to me, is a fallacy.
Right.
A fallacy in the sense that you want to keep it dirty so that we don't get ourselves into it. If there was that dirty, why are people fighting and dying for it? even when we think they are senior, they still want even the other that is better than where they are. Why are they holding that? Why do they want to push themselves that much? And therefore, to me, is that if you look at biblical examples, and there are quite many, very many spread. What he has just said about even Pharaoh. Pharaoh, at one point, he had a dream, and he couldn't even be able to sort out his own dream, even what he dreamed. Basically, God had given him a dream of what is about to happen. But finally, who sorted out this puzzle? Is somebody who has been kept aside in prison. Joseph is a man who comes finally and is like, this is simple. When the magicians, the enchanters of the time could not be able to unravel the mystery of the king's dream. And this is exactly what we are doing, because look at even our Kenyan politics. Every cycle and every year, the promises are the same. The prayers are the same. There's no change.
And that's it. That. So allow me to define something. I am a practicing pastor. Just the fact that I'm also a practicing politician. And I vied for the senatorship position in Nairobi in 2017. And I'm the chairman of a political party. And the truth is, even what he is saying in terms of the state capture, whether democracy is an expression that gives us liberty or not. You understand? And even the dream that Pharaoh was given, and you need to ask yourself, why wasn't Joseph given that dream? You understand? How come God didn't give Joseph the dream? It's because the dream was given to the man who has the resources, and the interpretation was given to the prophet. And I come to the second point where I said the church must control resources. If Joseph had that dream in jail, and he went to tell Pharaoh, you would have been, so I think you're a bit stressed because of jail. You need to rest. But the dream was repeated severally. Why? Because it was supposed to resolve the economic stature of that nation.
Right.
But the interpretation was given to the priest. And I think that's where the convergence is. You understand? The king and the priest. The prophet and the king at the end of the day. You understand?
Right.
But we need to ask ourselves, why in this land hasn't the church been registered from 2013? You understand? We know how evil politics is, but whatever that is evil must be prosecuted by power and authority by those who the Spirit of God has rested on them. You know, power is boisterous and authority is judicial. Only Christians have the force to arrest that which is dark and to fight that which is evil. You get the point?
Right.
You understand?
Is that the reason why, and I really desired an answer to this question. We have people we have known.
I wanted to say that they went in as Christians.
Yes.
But you know, there's a difference between salvation and the kingdom of God, the
Right.
lordship of Christ.
Uh-huh.
You can be saved, but salvation may take you to heaven, but you'll never enjoy the dominance or the effect of the government of God. And many Christians are saved, but Jesus is not Lord over their lives. When you look at the book of Psalms, the promulgation of Jesus Christ after he's resurrected, the fact that he was given an administrative office to make sure that the government of God takes effect on earth, many Christians don't practice the lordship of Christ upon the earth. Salvation to them
Right.
is the basic they ever achieve. But they are born again, but they still struggle upon the things that the Bible has outruled and said that a believer should not struggle on this. And that's the reason why they are conquered by darkness. You're elected.
Uh-huh.
You don't have power and authority in you. You go there, but unlike Daniel, you don't demonstrate the right
Bishop,
virtue.
Why?
Why?
Spiritually.
Maybe allow me to put it a bit simpler. You know, he is more technical.
Yeah, he's vied, he's
Yes,
vied for our
so that,
position.
Those are the questions we have to ask
can also
ourselves
be able
Yes.
and
to-
help.
Yeah.
to grasp what we are saying. And I want to just repeat what you asked, because I think it's important. We have had somebody like Bishop Pius Moiro, whom we respect,
Right.
who went for the presidency of this nation. And I think the church was maybe among the first people to be able to slow down he's a bishop. To
Yeah,
become the
true.
president.
Exactly, unfortunately.
Uh, and to me, may not be unfortunate because that is exactly how biblical things begin.
All right.
Look at how David is raised to become the king of Israel. Immediately, Samuel goes to Jesse's home to anoint a king whom God has said will be anointed. Whom does Jesse produce? He produced whom he thought they are popular, the
Right.
Elishab, the big brothers. They were there, the big
They're
brothers.
older. you know,
Because they are
more
older in
experienced.
age, they are there,
Yeah.
we know them. But still, God needed somebody in his after his own heart to go for this seat. And therefore, as much as Eliab and the other brothers were produced, it was matter of timing. We may have done the same. We may have thought because maybe this one is more popular, it would be known. But that does not silence the position that somebody from the church should also be able to rise to positions of leadership at whatever levels of the administration of the nation.
Right.
And therefore, I would say that even if it may seem, why didn't we do that? Also, again, remember that biblically, timing of God is very important. We don't just do things anytime. There is a time that is always ripe for something. The way I've just given you an example of Joseph. So Joseph, finally, when he comes up as a simple boy, then King hears how wise he is. He may not have known him. Then finally, what does he do? He is appointed to become the prime minister of the land, to control the economic activity of the land, to save the land from future problems economically. And that's how even Egypt became such a strong world power economically, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
We have many other examples. There's also another example in 2 Kings chapter number 3. About 3 kings gang up together. King Joshua, the king of Edom, they come together. And they are going to fight, and all of a sudden they have no idea what to do. And they ask, is there not a seer in this land? Are we not having a prophet who can be able to come and rescue us? They can command the armies of the land, but they were unable to command the spiritual angle of the time.
All right.
So finally they are told, Elisha is here.
Come on.
And Elisha comes.
Lovely. We need to take a short break. Eh?
Yes.
But I want to understand what you're saying. So what's the right timing? That's very key. But I still desire an answer to...
I am going to give you an
The
answer, I think, when we
question.
come to the break.
Yes.
Especially on the aspect of Bishop Moiro.
Right.
The Bible in Ezekiel 22:30 says that God is looking for a man to stand in the gap, that he may not destroy the nation. This country rejected Bishop Moiro. See what happened right after. The bloodshed was intense. If you can replay his messages, the bishop was warning the nation that there's going to be intense bloodshed. It happened exactly as he had said. That was a prophet that was standing in the gap at the end of the day. You see, when you see the entry of the government of men in the Bible, it was upon the rejection of the prophet of God. And God said, they haven't rejected you, they have rejected me. You get it? So at the end of the day, Bishop Moiro was not doing democracy or desiring to earn a salary as a president. This was a prophet who was standing in the gap. When you interview him directly, he will tell you the full story of exactly what happened.
Then hold it right there.
I'm holding it.
Bishop, you will tell us. Why did people reject Bishop Moiro? Was it the right timing? You will tell us about that when we come back. This is a hot one. So sit back, relax. We'll be coming back in a short while right here on Sunday Best. It's about church and politics. Don't go too far.